The year is 1612, a small island off the coast of Japan. The morning fog hasn't lifted yet. A man steps off a boat. He is late, deliberately late. His opponent, Sasaki Kojiro, the finest swordsman in all of Western Japan, has been waiting for hours. Furious, humiliated, exactly as planned. The man carries no metal sword. He carved one from the oar of the boat during the crossing. What happened next took less than 3 seconds. His name was Miyamoto Musashi, and that duel, his 61st, was the last fight he ever had. He was undefeated, untouchable, the most feared warrior in all of Japan. And then he stopped. No more duels, no more killing. He put down his sword and picked up a paintbrush. For 300 years, historians have asked the same question. Why? Why would a man who had never lost, who had built his entire identity around the blade, simply walk away? The answer is hidden inside his life, and it will change how you think about mastery itself. Musashi was born in 1584 in the Harima province of Japan, a time when the country was still bleeding from decades of civil war. His father, Shinmen Munisai, was a warrior of some reputation, but he abandoned the boy, or died. The records are unclear, and Musashi himself never spoke of it. What we do know, at age 13, Musashi killed a man. Not a soldier, not in a war, in a formal duel, challenged by a local samurai named Arimakia. The samurai expected a boy who would bow and beg forgiveness. Instead, Musashi threw him to the ground and beat him to death with a wooden staff. He was 13 years old, and he felt nothing except curiosity about what he had just discovered about himself. For the next 20 years, Musashi walked Japan alone. No home, no master, no school of swordsmanship to learn from, because there was no school that could teach him anything he didn't already know. This was the Musha Shugyo, the warrior's pilgrimage, a tradition where samurai tested their skills against strangers, refined by constant confrontation. Musashi refined it to an art form. He fought at the Battle of Sekigahara in 1600, one of the largest battles in Japanese history, and survived. He was 16. He defeated the entire Yoshioka school of swordsmanship in 3 separate duels. The school had trained samurai for generations. He dismantled their reputation in an afternoon, then fought and killed their next challenger at dawn while they tried to ambush him with 60 men. 60 men. One Musashi. He walked away. By the time he reached his 30s, no serious swordsman would challenge him openly. His reputation alone had become a weapon. But reputation, he was discovering, was a cage of its own kind. Sasaki Kojiro was everything Musashi was not. Where Musashi was rough, wandering, self-taught, Kojiro was polished, celebrated, appointed swordmaster to the Lord Abusin. His technique, the Tsubeim Geishi, the swallow countercut, was considered the most lethal strike in Japan. When the duel was announced, all of Japan watched. Musashi showed up late. Some say 2 hours, some say more. He arrived on a small boat, still carving his wooden sword from the oar. When Kojiro saw the wooden blade, he threw his sword scabbard into the sea in contempt. He would not need it for the return. He was that certain. Musashi smiled. "You've already lost," he said. "A man who throws away his scabbard has decided he won't need it." The fight lasted 3 seconds. Kojiro struck first, his signature swallow cut. Musashi stepped inside it and drove the wooden sword into the side of Kojiro's head. He bowed over the body. Then he turned and got back into his boat. After Ganryūjima, Musashi never fought again. He was 28 years old. He had a lifetime of victories ahead of him, and he chose silence instead. He spent the next 30 years painting, writing, carving, teaching, but never competing. The question historians have puzzled over for centuries has a simple answer, written in Musashi's own hand in his final work, the Book of 5 Rings, completed just weeks before his death. The primary thing when you take a sword in your hands is your intention to cut the enemy, whatever the means. Whenever you parry, hit, spring, strike or touch the enemy's cutting sword, you must cut the enemy in the same movement. It is essential to attain this. He had mastered the sword completely. Perfectly. There was nothing left to prove, no edge left to sharpen. To keep fighting would not have been strength. It would have been fear. Fear of facing the emptiness on the other side of mastery. Musashi walked away because he had arrived. Most people fight their whole lives and never get there. Miyamoto Musashi died in 1645 in a cave called Reigando, where he had spent his final years in solitude. He died sitting upright. In his hand, the Book of Five Rings, completed 7 days earlier. He had no students, no dojo, no official school. He left behind only his words and his paintings, and a philosophy of mastery so precise that business schools, military academies, and martial artists still study it 400 years later. CEOs in Tokyo carry copies of the Book of Five Rings. West Point has taught from it. The U.S. Marine Corps used it as a tactical manual in the 1980s. A man who lived alone, fought alone, and died alone, shaped the thinking of millions he never met. That is what walking away from the sword gave him. Not failure, not retreat. The space to become something larger than any single jewel could ever contain. The greatest samurai who ever lived didn't stop fighting because he was tired. He stopped because he finally understood something that very few people, warrior or otherwise, ever learn. True mastery is not the ability to keep winning. It is knowing when the fight is no longer the point. If stories like this interest you, history that goes beyond the surface, the real life behind the legends, there are more coming. The next one covers a man who waited 20 years for a single act of revenge and whether it was worth it. Until then,